Now we're moving into the area of shanks. What are shanks? By definition, a shank is an improvised stabbing weapon. Unlike actual fighting knives and knives designed for stabbing and cutting, what you are statistically most likely to be punctured with is a pen or a pencil. These things are everywhere. You find them in blue-collar environments as well as white-collar, in schools, workplaces, things like that. Somebody becomes enraged, they grab the closest, sharpest thing they have, and they begin to go to work on it. Now, because of the relatively fragile structure of a pencil or a pen, they tend to use the overhand grip to get that extra power. So you're very likely, according to one study, you are 5 times more likely to get stabbed in the neck or face when somebody uses this kind of grip. Contrary to popular belief, there's a certain state of mind out there where people are trying to tell you that this attack only exists in movies, that nobody actually attacks that way. It's pretty stupid. When it comes to improvised weapons like these small shanks, it's very, very common to have somebody hold it like this. You can very easily lose an eye or get a puncture in your neck. All right, let's look at some of the defenses. The first kind of shank we talked about is what I call the white collar shank, non-metal shanks. By definition, a shank is an improvised stabbing tool. The most common one in North America, which most people don't realize, is a simple pencil. For the sake of you being able to see well on camera, we're going to use a big red training knife here. But remember, the most common thing is a pencil or pen. And because of the relative fragility of this design, if this were a pencil, the guy's probably thinking it's going to break if it hits his rib or it doesn't feel strong. So it is very common for people to use this reverse grip, despite what some sources are saying that this only exists in movies. In fact, this is the most common way that you're going to lose an eye or get a puncture in your neck. Now, the first thing we need to realize about shanking attacks is they do not happen like the movie, where it's a big overcommitted thrust and the guy does this and lets you perform his defense. In fact, according to the Lafon study, which was looking carefully into weapon defenses, or weapon attacks I should say, one of the most common uses of the reverse grip is what was referred to as the woodpecker. It was quick, low impact strikes, usually from the elbow, so there wasn't a lot of wind up. When you've got a pencil to the eye or a pair of scissors, it doesn't take a lot before your neck is perforated. So sometimes it's not always about the power stroke, it's about faster repeated, and that can be more problematic. But let's begin with a more power stroke. Now, if I have the same flinch response, I'm going to have to treat this pretty much like we did the punch. It's not ideal because of the reverse grip. You may end up being able to peel my back, but there's no way that's going to be a fatal or even dangerous blow, and you may not feel it in the middle of the fight. Now, as weapon attacks get farther away, your brain has more time, your visual field is expanded, so your brain has more time to process the stimulus, so the reflex becomes less and less likely to occur. So let's assume that I have a partial reflex and then I see the weapon coming. Traditionally in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and lots of other arts, they're going to use an upper block like this. It's a really natural thing to do. Now let's look at the proper way to do it. One of the arguments that people have against this traditional upper block is that if the person's very strong, he's going to hammer his way through, and it's not as strong as possible. So put that down for a second and push on my arm with 2 hands, push it down. And I'm going to resist. Yeah, again, it can be relatively weak depending on the angle. So one way that we can mechanically strengthen that position, which most people don't realize, is a simple upward arm bend like that. So when he pushes on with 2 hands now, 2 hands, it's much stronger in this position, okay? Now at the same time, pick up the shank. As he does the multiple attacks, this doesn't do any good. It's going to break contact, he's going to get another chance, it's going to break contact, he's going to realize there's a barrier in here, and he's going to start going around. Really common idea. Most people understand this if they've analyzed this situation. So in the old days, even Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was doing this, but I don't believe they've done that since the 70s. What you need to do is put a hook on the end. So this stronger mechanical position allows you to hook that. And when he pulls, he's going to pull you into it. That's a more realistic way to use this upper block position. Remember, by bending your wrist in this position, it mechanically makes your arm stronger and makes it natural for me to get this hook. So as he pulls the pencil off the table, I have a partial